Right, we're going to fast forward to the year 2040 now to see what life is going to be like in the future. And I'm pleased to say this week I've been chatting to Futurist Tom Cheesewright. Here's what happened. Tom, how are you, sir?
Good, thanks. Very good.
Good. Well, thank you for joining us. So tell us about the Future of Mobility 2040 project. What's all this about then?
So this is a project done by Zego, an insurance company, looking at what the future of transport and mobility might look like in a couple of ways. First of all, asking us, the public, what we think about what we want. And interesting, we're all quite excited, it seems, about 60% of the population excited about the future some of these technologies like autonomous vehicles might bring. But also trying to visualize it, and this really sucked me in, actually creating a three-dimensional visualization of what the future of transport might look like in one of our city centres.
So of course we've already started to see things happening like hybrid cars and electric cars. They're already starting to take off.
Yeah, well, I mean, takeoff's an interesting term because we're going to have flying electric cars as well before long. But let's go back to the normal electric cars. About 36% of us, according to this survey, have actually already used or drive an electric or hybrid car, or have used an app to summon a sort of an alternative form of transport. So this technology isn't science fiction. It's something we're starting to experience day in, day out. And what we're doing is taking these examples from around the world. We've got self-driving buses being trialled in Scotland. We've got autonomous vehicles being trialled in bits of the country. We've got these increasing range of electric sort of personal vehicles, bringing those all together and plotting forward and saying, if we do this, if we get together the insurance company, the government, the local authorities, and us as drivers and pedestrians and cyclists get together, this is what our cities could look like.
So are these predictions real then? Are we really going to see this big change by 2040 then?
The big challenge with futurism is always not what, but when. If you look at what human beings want and the way the economy is going, what's possible in the realm of physics, you can usually say what's going to happen, but when it's going to happen is much more challenging. So are we going to get to this vision of a much cleaner city, much more efficient use of our space, much more space for pedestrians and cyclists, a really, really nice place to live by 2040? Well, that's a question of not the technology, because I think that's pretty certain to be there. It's a question of policy. It's a question of putting the sort of financial framework around it. None of us can drive or do these things without insurance around it. And we've got to have that conversation. And personally, I've always been a bit skeptical about autonomous vehicles. I think they'll definitely come, but I've been very skeptical about the timeline. But the fact that an insurance company's gone, no, we're thinking about this. Not only are we thinking about this, we're going to ask people what they want and we're going to try and visualize it. That gives me some confidence that by 2040 we might get there.
I love the idea of the air taxis. Is that a reality?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be able to fly in one of these in the next couple of years. And maybe not in the UK, but in other parts of the world where they started to get a bit ahead in terms of the legislation, the testing. What you're really talking about is something that looks like a kid's toy drone, but scaled up to the size of a car. Loads of safety systems, loads of redundancy, probably flown initially by a remote pilot, but ultimately flown by a machine, by a computer. And absolutely, these are things are going to be a reality. Partly how I know is that property companies I've spoken to are already starting to plan for the landing pads in cities so that people can use these to do short hops from city centres and out again.
So obviously when these things are going to come into place then, city councils and stuff are going to have to make a lot of changes to the city centres.
Yeah, but they're already starting to do that. The last couple of years have dramatically changed how we start to use our city centres, changed the way we work, when we move, where we want to live. And we're starting to see this sort of re-urbanisation kicking off again as people come back to cities, recognising all the brilliant things they can bring. And so while councils are having these conversations about what we're going to do with our retail space, how we're going to make these attractive places to live and work, maybe they can start to bring in some of the learning from this survey and this visualisation, say, well, this is what transport might look like in 18, 20 years. How do we prepare for that in terms of thinking about cycle storage, in terms of thinking about recharging points, in terms of, what can we do with the parking spaces and reuse that to good effect?
And with all these robots taking over everything, surely it's going to put people out of work as well.
I think it's an interesting challenge from the perspective of drivers and driving work. Yes, there's a possibility that machines do take some jobs, but a couple of other things happen. First of all, the machines can't do everything. It's no good getting a parcel to the door if you can't get it inside. Second of all, actually, people like human service. People like actually the human face, the empathy, the contact. We've got one delivery guy who stands out from all the others because he's got that sense of personality, the conversation, the interest. We really really value that. And so I hope that, maybe some jobs might be displaced, but actually we can create higher value jobs where we really value that sense of human and personal customer service.
And are we going to be seeing more robots and things around the house as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know about you. I'm a big fan of my robot vacuum cleaner. It turns this sort of the big pile of cereal that the kids inevitably leave behind after breakfast, sweeps it away and tucks it into a little pod. That's very welcome. I mean, maybe you should say I should get the kids to do it for themselves, but good luck with that. I've tried. And, there are more and more of these robots coming in the next few years. Definitely things like potentially food robots, sort of smarter things for food preparation that you can leave to stir stuff, chop stuff, do stuff on its own. It's a little way out. It'll be expensive at first, but it'll come to us eventually.
You've got plenty of stuff in your office. It all looks very technical there behind you.
Well, I'm an applied futurist, so I like looking at the future, but I also like solving problems. So, very related to today, I wanted to really understand electric vehicles, electric cars. So during lockdown, my daughter and I actually built one, and you can see a part of my next electric car project up there. So, wow. Yeah, if you really want to get to grips with this stuff, there's no better way than actually building things.
And is that a robot or something just behind you there on the floor as well?
There's a robot arm that's under construction over there, a building block type robot up there as well. Too many works in progress, if I'm really honest, but some of them do work. The car's safe, at least.
Brilliant. It sounds like lots of fun. If people want to get some more information on the future of mobility 2040, where can they go to for that?
Go check out these brilliant visualizations that Zego, this insurance company, has done. They're at zego.com, that's zego.com/2040, 2040.
Brilliant. Well, Tom, it's been great talking to you. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.